Hi, welcome to Gig Garage. My name is Zach, and this is my little internet show about whitewater things. And in today's episode, I want to talk about bow lines. And when I say bow lines, I'm referring to both bow lines and stern lines. These are ropes you tie to the ends of your boat for a variety of things. The two most common things are one, lining. If you get to a rapid you don't want to run, you can portage it, or you can just hold on to the boat with the rope and lower it down, like walk it like a dog down to the rapids. And so it's nice to have a bow and stern line if you're doing that. You can use a throw bag. You just gotta put the throw bag away, which takes time. And this is just quick and easy. But the more common use is tying your boat up. If you're doing a day trip, commonly you tie your boat up at put-in or a takeout, or if you stop somewhere, you need a rope to tie it onto a tree or a log or something. If you're doing a multi-day trip, you're doing this a lot. You get it tied up in camp, which may require a little bit more effort and anchor further away. So for length, I like to go 1.5 to 2.5 times the boat length. This is a 13-foot boat, so 1.5 times would be about 20 feet. I've gone with 25 feet. I like a little bit more rope because I tend to use these on multi-day trips where I have to go a little further up the bank to find something to tie onto. For an 18-foot gear boat, that might mean like 35, 40, 50 feet. I like 50 feet. A lot of the places I run trips, we have to go pretty far up the bank to tie to a good anchor, and so I'll do 50 feet. For rope types, there's a couple things you can go with. You can really go with any rope. I'm a big fan of Sterling ropes. This grab line is great stuff. It's intended for throw bags. It's a 3/8 inch grab line. It's great because it floats. It's really visible, and this grab line has a nice texture to it that's easy to grab. Hence the name grab line. So for day boats, for small boats like this, I'll use a 3/8 inch grab line. They don't make this in a bigger diameter. So if I want a bigger, stiffer rope, I'll go with this. This is the 7/16 Sterling rescue rope. And the reasons this is better, one, it's just a thicker diameter rope is easier to hold on to. Even though this has the grab line. But it's stronger and it's stiffer. It doesn't elongate that much. And so this rope actually stretches a bit when you're using it. This doesn't really stretch as much. And so these bigger diameter ropes are pretty nice. So for gear boats, for overnight trips, for big boats, I'll use this bigger diameter rope. And for a day trip boat or just like a paddle boat, I'll use this thinner diameter rope. So, and I'll put links in the notes down below for places you can buy both this rope and this rope. To tie it on, I use a figure 8 follow through. You could use a variety of ropes, a variety of knots to do this. The bowline would work. You could tie it off to a carabiner and clip it on, I guess, if you wanted to. But I'm a big fan of the figure 8 follow through. The figure 8 follow through it's a very efficient knot, which means it doesn't take very much strength from the rope when it's in there. But it's also fairly easy to untie. And you only tie this knot on here once every couple of years. The figure 8 follow through takes a little bit longer than a bowline, so I'm happy to do it. And you basically just tie a figure 8. You can Google this knot or try to follow along. And you just follow this figure 8 through backwards. It's pretty straightforward. I might mess it up here though, which would be embarrassing. Nope, I think I got it. And it's really important that these knots that you dress them, which makes them make them look pretty, make everything kind of line up. This knot will typically be in here for a couple of years, so any inconsistency in the knot will take away from its efficiency, which will make the rope weaker. And you want to make sure this loop here you can't get a hand through. You want to make this loop here as small as you can. So in a little bit of lead, that's a good attachment for a bow or stern line. And some people like to attach, like some boats have multiple D-rings on the end. Avon's had 2 D-rings, and some people like to go through both D-rings. The advantage is if one D-ring pops, it's still on the second one. The 2 disadvantages, one, you might create like some weird vector forces here that create more tension on the D-rings than by just pulling on one. And so that's one disadvantage. And the other one is you could create a loop a hand or leg gets stuck into. So it's hard to tie through 2 D-rings and not create a loop there. So I'm a big fan of one. I've never seen a bow line D-ring pop, although I'm sure it's happened. And if you've seen it happen, leave me a comment in the comment section below. But yeah, I'm not sure about a D-ring popping from a bow line. And the way I've learned to store ropes is with what I just call the rope storage knot. You just take it really quickly, loop it around your arm like this. The nice thing about this method is it's pretty quick. I'm doing this a lot. I'm tying and untying boats quite a bit in my job, so I want something quick. And then you just wrap this around a few times, And you kind of learn the spot where you then take a bite on this rope, put the bite through here and up and over and around the rope. And you kind of want to get this good. You want to make it tight. If you don't make this tight, it's going to come unraveled while you're boating. And then you'll have a lion dragging below you, which might get caught. And it's kind of embarrassing with the line falling behind you. So get it tight. And this is a great way to store it. You know, it seems a little sloppy because it's hanging a little bit. You know, there are places a hand could get stuck in this. And so this doesn't follow the clean line principle. It's what I've historically used. I like it. I'm going to take the risk of these loops because people aren't usually in the bow and stern of the boat. They're usually on the sides. I think the odds of somebody getting caught up in this is pretty low. So I'm personally willing to take that small risk. But the one nice thing about the rope storage knot, you just quickly grab this piece right here if you know how to tie it, and you're ready to rock, right? You're ready to line a boat or jump on shore really quick and do something. I am very cognizant though of the clean line principle, and I'm trying my best to learn how to use it more in my boating, in my everyday life on the river. So I've learned a technique to tie the rope up that follows it, and I'm going to try to demonstrate it here. You can't create big loops like this, so you can't quickly coil it. You have to learn a coil size, and I'm going to guess a coil size here, and you have to slowly coil it, which sometimes I'm impatient to get on the river, so I don't like to make perfect coils, and there's a way to wrap these better. I'm not somebody out there could do a video on how to wrap these coils better. But you make a nice even coil. I'm already messing this up, but I'm trying. Once you have a small coil, you wrap it through your perimeter line. So you need a perimeter line to do this. And you take it and go through like that. Now if you did this right, and I did a pretty mediocre job here, this loop is a problem. If you do this right, there's no loop here. If you chose the right size coil, which I don't really have much of a loop there. So this doesn't have something an arm or a leg can get stuck into. A finger can get stuck. But it's a pretty nice way to go. And I used it a little bit and it hasn't come undone for me, although it looks like it might come undone. So this is something I'm trying to apply in my everyday boating. You know, I'm hesitant. I learned a certain way of doing things. I learned not to use these perimeter lines. I learned my quick tie method. I have my ways. I've always done it. I'm trying this out to see how it works, and I'd recommend if you want to follow the clean line principle, try this out in your own boating. So anyway, that's bow and stern lines in a nutshell. A lot of you out there that are experienced have left some great comments, especially on the last episode about perimeter lines. So if you have other knots you do, other ways you're doing, other techniques, please share them with everybody out there. If you're a cat boater, if you're running cat rafts, I tie this off to the frame, and I'll pull my stern lines off and on quite a bit, so I'll use a bowline for cat rafting. But if you have other techniques for cat rafts or other kinds of boats or other ropes you like, please leave them in the comments section below. And as always, thanks for listening and paying attention, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.